I'm Zoe Eggleton. I'm a women's health physiotherapist working at the Holly Private Hospital in Buckhurst Hill, and I also work for myself at Eggleton Physiotherapy from my home clinic room. And I filmed this video for you today on the importance of doing your pelvic floor exercises. So I think I should start by telling you what your pelvic floor is and what it does. So I've got my model here of the pelvis. So you can see you've got the pubic bone at the front, and you've got the coccyx or the tailbone at the back, and the red bit underneath, all of that is your pelvic floor muscle. So if I just turn the model round, you can see if that's the vaginal opening there and that's the back passage, you can see the pelvic floor muscle actually kind of encompasses that whole area kind of right underneath your skin. And it's like a hammock that supports the organs above it. So the pelvic organs that are resting upon this muscle are the bladder at the front, the bowel at the back, and in the middle we've got the womb or the uterus, which obviously at the moment is housing your growing baby. So there's a lot of weight and pressure on the pelvic floor muscle during pregnancy, and it's working hard to keep everything where it should be. So that's one of its roles, is support of the pelvic organs. In addition, another major role is continence. So you can see that the muscle actually encircles both the front passage and the back passage, and it's a bit like a figure of 8. And it keeps those outlets closed when you don't want to go to the toilet, so if it's not convenient, and it relaxes to enable you to go to the toilet when it is convenient to go. So really, really important function there. And then also it has a major role in sex, because if the vagina is quite loose and lax, because the muscle is quite loose and lax, it will mean that sensation for both you and your partner is not as good, and that the strength of your orgasm is not as good. So there's lots of reasons to make sure you have a strong pelvic floor muscle, to avoid any problems like incontinence, sexual dysfunction, and then if the muscle is weak, another thing that can happen is that the pelvic organs actually drop down out of their correct position, and that's known as a pelvic organ prolapse. So one of the major causes for pelvic floor dysfunction is pregnancy and childbirth. So it's not just the childbirth or the mode of delivery that can cause injury to the pelvic floor, although obviously if you have a direct injury to the pelvic floor, for example if you have a bad tear, you might have a 2nd degree tear that affects the muscle of the pelvic floor, you might have a 3rd or 4th degree tear. I mean, not meaning to frighten you ladies, but you know, some form of tearing is very, very common. But yeah, if you have a direct trauma with a tear to the muscles, that will obviously cause an injury. But for the C-section ladies amongst you, just be aware that the pregnancy itself and holding the weight of the baby on your top of your muscle for 9 months in itself will stretch the pelvic floor and weaken it. So it's really important to try and keep the muscle as strong as you can during your pregnancy, and then when you're postpartum, try and restart the exercises again. So you'd ideally start, if you had to have a catheter in your bladder, you would wait until that was removed, but then you could start doing the pelvic floor exercises again almost straight away.